show you a little trick that we use in our listing agreements to help you with that. Would that be helpful for you today? Okay. The bottom of that, open house sign. So that's all you saw was that big sign, and people started calling me Mr. Best. Hey, aren't you Mr. Best? Mr. Best. I was like, I kind of like that last name, but it's Simpson. But I like that. And so it was just my phone number 428 Best. And I would put them up on all around my farm area, and on Friday night I would post them up for my open house on Sunday, and I'd leave them up until Sunday night. And so what happens, as you guys all know, is people start saying, oh my gosh, I see your signs everywhere. You're all over the place. Well, they don't realize that you don't have all these listings. You're just putting up these signs all over the farm area, and that's how you're getting your name out there. The mistake I see, though, is there's no consistency. I see people changing names a lot. Like they'll go from the dream team to the sweet team, or what'd you say? Scream team, or whatever team, and they change it all the time. And I think that's a mistake. And then I also see agents branding the company, and I'm like, what are you doing? Or branding nothing. They'll just put a sign up that says open house on it, and there's nothing there. And those are just major mistakes. There's major marketing mistakes because and you should be branding the company, right? Right? You should be branding you. I mean, you're the reason. I was taught this early on in my business. So it's a sidebar, but just because we're all having fun here. I was doing this at my company that I was with, and I'll just put company just so that I'm not, talking about anybody's company. And they taught me to do this. They said, put the company real big and real bold everywhere, and then put your name down under here, right? And go brand this everywhere. And then this agent that helped me, that took me under her wing, said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm doing what the company's taught me to do. And she goes, no, you've got this wrong. You want to do it like this, Michael. You are the reason that these people are doing business with you. It's not because you're a company. So you want to brand you big and the company small. And as soon as she did that, I was like, well, of course, duh. But you see this. You see this a lot. And I just think that that's a major mistake that people make because they don't realize that they're doing that. So great point, great point.
A lot of companies don't allow you to do that.
Well, then I would say get out of that company. Absolutely. Any company that says to you that you should, and that's a real hot button. You can see I'm going to get a little flared here. But yeah, I mean, it's why. When I went to a company, I left the company. And no, this is a big deal. I know Kelly, but this is a big deal.
No, say don't cough in the...
Oh, don't cough, I'm sorry. Calm down. Oh my gosh, I have no idea. And don't mess with that one, And so anyway, I left this company, and I had 30-something listings. And they tried to tell me that all those listings belonged to them. I'm sorry. We talked about being on the west side and lives being in danger at some points with what we were doing over there, and you're now telling me that that was because of you? I didn't see that gun pointed at you. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we had these stories. It's another story, but not all the time. But it's happened. It's happened a couple of times. Not Beverly Hills, west side. So anyway, the point is you guys are the ones, last time I checked, that are out on the streets, going to people's homes or grinding the phones or working your butts off like you do. It's you that's getting the business. It's not the company. The company's here to support you and help you in any way that they can, okay? And they should do that. But they shouldn't be saying, in my opinion, ever, that you can't do this, you can't, within reason. I mean, you can't get the company in trouble, and there's things about that, trademarking and all of that. But to say that you can't brand yourself over the company is, I'm not a fan of that at all. I don't believe that. So, what else about listings though?
So did you get listings by sending out mailers, or did you network to a certain group? How were you pursuing sellers?
Okay, well let's keep going then. Let's talk about that. So there's So listings, they help you with transactions. You can do more of them. And we talked about that yesterday on some ways that you can control the volume. You can control the flexibility with that. We talked about that as well, because you can have a large volume under contract, and you can have systems in place to manage those contracts. And what business are you in? What business do you guys think you're in? All right, very good, excellent. Marketing and lead generation. You know how often we ask that question? This is why I love these 3-day events, because these guys are, you're the cream that's rising to the top. When we ask those questions a lot of time, we'll hear things like, well, we're in the real estate business, or we're in the people business, or service business, or commercial business. And no, it's lead generation, and indoor marketing, and any business is in that business of getting more leads. You need that dark dimmed a little bit?
Just a little bit.
Okay. Is that all right, you guys? Yeah. Okay. All right, so go to page 74. Okay, so before, what we've been doing with the buyer side is we're talking about the buyer. You guys are all familiar with this column. So this is the current rents, this is the market rents, and then middle of the road rents. And these are the assumptions here. First of all, what is your goal with the seller? Get the appointment. Yeah, right. Get the appointment. Now, sometimes you may want to pre-qualify that seller. You probably should do that really every time. So, do you guys have a set of questions, getting back to scripts, that you use when that phone rings, or your assistant, or whoever answers that phone? Yes or no?
No.
No. Okay, you should. Don't you think you should? Yeah. So you should, and the reason that you should are several. Is that you don't want to have to think about what to say every time and do something differently. You want to be a machine. In my opinion, you should be a machine. So getting back to, maybe you don't want to do 500 deals a year, and that's fine. Maybe you don't want to do 100 deals a year, that's fine. Maybe you don't want to make $1 million a year, that's fine. Thank you, Michael. Maybe you want to make $100,000 a year, but why not make $100,000 a year in 3 months and take the other 9 months off, right? So see, this is why I'm saying if you're a machine, if you're efficient, you're just super efficient with your time, then you can free up all this other time and do some other stuff that you want to do, whatever that is.
Is that scripted here?
No. So yeah, no problem. Thank you, Michael, so much. Appreciate it. And so that would be one reason for having scripts, just so you don't have to constantly read and think about what do I do differently each time. So you're doing things the exact same way over and over again. And so a script, what I do is I just use the Mike Berry scripts. Okay, Mike Berry scripts. So when the phone rings, I'm sorry, Kelly. When the phone rings, where are you moving? Are you guys familiar with Mike Berry scripts, by chance, anybody in the room? Okay, if you write these down. I think I have them somewhere, but I'll walk you through it. Where are you moving to? How soon do you have to be there by? How much do you owe? And how much are you thinking about selling your property for? Where are you moving to? Are you familiar with it?
Very much.
Very much, okay. So, clean me up if I'm off. Is that right on?
Establishing motivation.
Yeah, okay.
So you can see how motivated they are, how willing they are to price appropriately with you.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. So you're establishing motivation is right on. So where are you moving to? How soon you have to be there by? How much do you owe? And how much are you thinking of selling your property for? That's a residential. And I'll keep going again. Where are you moving to? How soon you have to be there by? How much do you owe? And how much are you thinking of selling your property for?
Translate that to commercial.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
I just spelled Ferry. Todd.
Okay, so, bless you. The other question you could ask, some people shy away from sometimes a little bit, is, are you interviewing any other agents? I like that question, but you can or can't ask that question. You leave that in or leave that out. So now it's a commercial. Are you doing an exchange? How soon do you have to have your property sold by? How much do you owe? And how much are you thinking of selling for? So only the first couple questions change just a little bit. Are you doing an exchange? How soon do you have to have the property sold by? I think that's actually only the first question that's changing. So just change the first one. So instead of where are you moving to, it would be, are you doing an exchange? And then how much do you, how soon do you have to have the property sold by? How much do you owe? And how much are you thinking of selling for? And then you could also add, and I think you should, are you interviewing any other agents? Okay, so, you good? Jamie? How much do you owe? Where are you exchanging? How much do you owe? How soon do you have to have the property sold by? And how much are you going to sell your property for? Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about what that means now. So, Corey is selling. Corey calls and he says, hey, I'm thinking about selling my house. Kelly answers the phone and pre-qualifies him with this script. Great, Mike's out of the office, and I'll have him call you right back as soon as possible. He wanted me to ask you just a few questions. You have just a minute? Corey's going to say, sure. Boom. Where are you moving to? All right, let's keep commercial. Are you doing an exchange? How soon do you have to have the property sold by? How much do you owe? And how much are you thinking of selling the property for? She writes down the question, answers, and hands me this note when I get in the office, or text, email, whatever. And instantly, like this gentleman was talking about, instantly I can look at this and take a flash report of this call I got and tell you how hot it is or not. So let's say, for example, that Corey's answers are, are you doing an exchange? No. How soon do you have to have the property sold by? No rush. How much do you owe? I owe $800,000. You know, and you see the address, and you're thinking, okay, it's 8 units, you know, and it's worth maybe $850. So we have a problem here. So I'm no hurry to get back to this person. If I'm busy, it's going to determine the motivation of this person, and you're going to be able to tell the motivation. Now, on the other hand, if he says the answer to those questions are, where are you moving to, or are you doing an exchange? Yes. How soon do you have to have the property sold by? As soon as possible, because I found a great deal on an upleg that I really want to close as fast as possible on. How much do you owe? I owe $450, and how much are you thinking of selling it for? Whatever you think I can get it sold for quickly, right? You see the two differences? So now all of a sudden we're dropping everything and getting right on this, right? So it's just a way of determining motivation. Okay, so I like to ask those questions. Kelly will ask the questions. I'm going to call back and answer those questions exactly like that. And then I'm also going to ask them again when I get in front of them. Now, if they're, I also ask them if they're interviewing any other agents, because I just want to have a general idea. And a lot of people will position themselves differently. I like to go in last. If I'm being, if they're interviewing other agents, I like to be the last person. So, and then that way, the reason that I like to do that, it's funny because I've talked to some people who like to go in first, but I just don't like that. I can overcome every objection there is. I've been pretty good at overcoming anything that comes up. It's always the same stuff. With the one objection that comes up where, well, I just promised my wife or I promised somebody that I wasn't going to sign anything until I met with everybody else. And so if I'm number one, I'm just kind of sitting there going, how do I get around that? So I just can't seem to I've never been able to get around that one. But if I'm the last one, it's already done. It's not there. That's not an objection that's going to come up. So that's why I like to come in, and then I like to use it. So if I'm saying, Corey, I've got some great things I want to share with you, do me a favor, I want to let you see what other people are doing to get an idea of what that is, so that you see, when you see my systems, you'll realize how great they really are for you, for helping you get your property sold. So do me a favor, Corey, no matter what, please don't sign anything with anybody, no matter what, Corey, until I get there. Is that okay? Is that fair? Yes. So see, I'm going to hammer him hard on this, no matter what. Now remember, you promised me. So So now I'm going to put all the other agents in that position. If they can get over that, which they have a couple times, and then that's great. So that's how I handle that. So let's talk about that. How's that sound? What do you guys like to do? Oscar?
Like to present something like why they're gonna lose position, because they're gonna have all these avenues of advertising that
Okay.
so they love that because they see more exposure to the property, more investors probably looking at the property, more motivated other people that know the state, not just look.
Okay. Any thoughts on the interview process? You like to go in first or last? Last. Okay. All right. So that's how I handle that. That usually works well, and that would be a question that I like to ask prior to going on the appointment. So I remember one time, and you can also do that and use it as whether you're even going to go on the appointment or not. I remember I used to be cautious about confirming appointments until my early on days when I was standing on the west side on one of the porches where they have cages in the front, you know, and you can't see in, but they can see out. And I was standing in my briefcase and my Century 21 jacket on in the early days. Briefcase. You guys had briefcase? And flip charts that we were using. And they were peeking at me. I was knocking on the door at 7 o'clock, and it was late, and I would rather have been at home, and they were peeking through the window, they weren't interested in meeting with me. And so that was the last time that happened. From then on, I said, okay, I'm going to confirm the appointment, and if I can't confirm it, I'm not going to go, because I just don't want to do that. So those would be some things that you should say and ask for when you go to the appointment.
Michael?
Yes?
You talked about people calling you that started the whole conversation. What if you don't have people calling you and you have to find them?
Yeah, let's get into we'll get into that. Okay, so those would be some questions that you want to ask when you get the call. So go to page 75. Oh, so I'm sorry. On page 74, page 74, before, notice we were getting the debt service. Where were we getting this debt service before? Yes, from the mortgage. So this is showing the buyer's putting down $250,000 as a down payment, and the loan is $750,000, 30-year loan at 7%. Now what we're going to do, so we're showing a buyer snapshot of what the buyer's projection and actual are going to look like, and then the seller now is where we're going to get this number now. So now we're going to go to the seller, and we're going to get the number from the seller itself. Okay, so everybody understands what we've done so far with getting to net operating income. So we have the scheduled gross income, we took 5%, we subtracted it, we have 35% for expenses, we subtracted that, that gives us our net operating income. Again, if anybody is gray still with that, or didn't go to an one-day course where we really went through that in depth, go back to that one-day course and go through that again so you can really understand what it is that we are, that we're talking about here. Ro, you moved too.
It's just a break.
What's that?
This is a break.
Oh, okay, no problem. Okay. You guys can't move around on me because now I'm getting pretty good with the names and everything, and then start moving around. So, okay, so NOI, now what we're going to do is we're going to take, and we're going to say to the seller, we're going to get the seller's debt service, and now we're going to subtract the debt service of the seller from the net operating income. Okay? You guys got that?
I have one question.
Yes. Right. But the actual is what? Actual is greater. Oh, if you use the actual. Yeah. Or whatever it is. So here's what we're doing. Let me. So what you're doing is you're a consultant now. You are a real estate investment consultant. Guys, nobody does this. I'm telling you right now, nobody does this. And so if you understand this concept and you can get this concept down to where you can do it, you can just kill it, because that's what I've done, and I'm telling you, and people don't do this. So the typical broker does what we've talked about a couple times. Hi, it's Michael. I got a buyer to buy your property. We want to sell that property in the next 3 to 6 months. That's it. That's what they do. So when you show up as this consultant, showing them you're actually providing value, what a concept. They love it. So what you're doing is you're saying, look, I'm going to analyze your property in detail and get all this information from you, and I'm going to show you how it's operating. Okay? So what you're doing when you do that is you want to take their actual debt service in order to do that. And you're going to take their actual, the way it's operating the past 12 months to show them here's the way that's being handled. Okay? So we're going to take the debt service that we get from them. Yes. Well, yes. So the vacancy, yeah, the vacancy would be true as well. You would get. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to confuse you. I'm using 5 and 35% because it's just for the sake of class, for an example, as an example. But you would actually grab whatever the seller's numbers are and use those numbers and plug them in here. Then you're going to subtract the debt service from the net operating income, and it's going to give you the pre-tax cash flow. Okay, so now, remember what we did yesterday? Anybody, I know it's kind of towards the end of the night. Remember what we did here to get this tax payable receivable? What? We came down here? We came down here. Yes, okay. So what we do, so everybody understands this now. All we did was we took the NOI, we subtracted debt service that we got from the seller, and we subtracted it, and that gives us our pre-tax cash flow. So now what we need to do is figure out how much that tax payable or receivable is. So to do that, what we do is we come down over here, and we take our GOI. We take our GOI, not our GSI, our GOI, and we subtract our interest. Now, remember we talked about the buyer yesterday and how the buyer is going to buy a property and they're going to pay, they're going to have a loan. And so when they have a loan, the first 12 months, they're going to have a payment. And of that payment, a certain amount is going to go towards principal, a certain amount is going to go towards interest, right? So the same thing's happening with the seller. The seller has a loan, and they have a payment every year, and a payment every month, right? Right? Okay, and so of that payment, a certain amount is going towards principal, a certain amount is going towards interest, right? And so where do you think you get this number, this interest number, what's being paid for interest? Statement, the mortgage statement. So at the end of the year, the seller is going to get a mortgage statement, and it's going to show all of those numbers. It's going to show you here's how much your payments were, and of those payments, here's how much went towards principal, and here's how much went towards interest. So you're just going to grab the statement and plug it in. Now, well, let me tell you, let me remind me to come back and talk about how we go about getting this information. So I just want to stay on this point for just a minute. So now we subtract the interest, and then we're going to subtract the actual expenses, actual seller expenses, and then we're going to subtract depreciation. Does anybody remember how the formula for depreciation, without looking through your books?
27.5.
I'm not sure that those answers were correct, but I hear a bunch of mumbling, so that's good. So, okay, so the sales price of what the seller paid for it times 0.85 divided by 27.5. Okay, so then when we do that, we're getting depreciation. That's where this number came from. Then what we do is we subtract it, and it's going to give us either a taxable income or a taxable loss. In this case, we have a positive cash flow, $26,000. So if you have a positive cash flow, do you have to pay taxes on the positive cash flow? Yes. If it was negative, you would not have to pay taxes on that loss. In this case, it's positive, So you want to take 33%, we're just going to assume a 33% tax bracket, and we're going to grab the number. So now we're taking 33% of 26,000, and that's where I'm getting $8,608. Let me finish this. Let me just finish this, and I'll come back and ask questions. Okay, so now we have a tax payable of $8,608. So now what we do is we plug it back in at the top, and we subtract it from our pre-tax cash flow. So now we're taking into consideration the seller's equity and return on equity after interest paid and depreciation. And then we're going to add in the equity buildup or the principal reduction for our total after-tax return. So what we're doing now is we're taking into consideration the seller's total return on equity after interest paid, principal reduction, and depreciation to get that return. Equity. So where do we get the equity principal reduction? Mortgage statement. Mortgage statement. Yes. All right. So what kind of questions do you have on that? Yes. Go ahead.
The depreciation is calculated on 85% of land?
85% of the building.
85%.
85% building, 15% land. Oh. Schedule. Yeah. Okay. I think I left this out just now. Yeah. I apologize. So you take sales price times 0.85 divided by 27.5. I think I left that out per year. Yes, per year. Now 39 would be commercial. Hey, good morning, Rima. And now 39 would be commercial. 27.5 is multifamily. But where would you get, that brings up a good point, Shelley, where would you get this depreciation from? From the tax guy, from the CPA or tax person. Would be where you would get the number. But I gave you the formula in case the seller doesn't know or doesn't care or has no idea or no CPA or that kind of thing. You can actually come pretty close by using the formula, okay? Does that make sense? Yeah, sometimes, like I've got multiple corporations, I don't even know, to be honest with you, sometimes one of my guys, I probably shouldn't say that, but they do a lot of different things, yes. Yeah, yes. Yeah. Yes. No, you don't have to. Right. Yeah. So in something like that, you should be able to find out what is it? What is that number? Because they're being very specific. Most are not, or have no idea what's going on.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Yeah. You don't have to be that specific because the depreciation's not going to be a huge variance. It might be off a few dollars. Is that Mike?
Hello.
Oh, cool. Okay. What's your name? I'm sorry?
Ian.
Ian. Pass that back to Ian, please.
Are we ever taking into consideration property taxes in any of the transactions?
Expenses. Yeah, part of the expenses. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Good question. Okay. So, yes.
Are you going to use the formula for the separation of the mortgage payment between the interest and the principal?
Formula for the separation of the principal and the interest? Not right now. I think I don't want to. Right now, I want to just stick with the mortgage statement. Get the mortgage statement from the seller, and on there you'll see this amount went towards principal, and this amount went towards interest. Later, if somebody reminds me, I'll talk more about that. But right now, I don't want to. Yes, so this question is just which sales price? It is the seller's purchase price that they bought the property for, not what they're selling it for at the time you're going to see them. They've added improvements, I'm not yet. Okay, so now remember, and we're not, this is in depth. This is in depth, but it's not CPA in depth. You want to be careful about stepping into that seat or making yourself sound like you're trying to. So, and be very clear, you're not a CPA or an attorney when you're doing this. Okay, so any questions on this right now? How about you, Remy? You got all that?
I was going through that with my client over the phone, and when we're done here,
It was hard to just look up on my phone.
Yeah, bad. I'm sorry. I know she drives from, you're driving from Palmdale?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's,
Traffic's worse than yesterday.
it was, it really was. So, all right, so is this, how you guys, good? All right, good. Depreciation formula is sales price of what the seller bought it for when they bought it. Sales price times 0.85 divided by 27.5. That's assuming a 85% land to building ratio. Okay, so let me keep going. Let me just keep going. And my goal, let me just say my goal with this, guys. My goal is not to get you to understand this. Here's what happened to me. What happened to me is I went through this like you. And when I went through this, I was going, wow, oh my gosh, can you say that again? Can you go through that again? And then I went over and over and over and over again, which is what we're going to do. And then I finally started to get it. And then I spent more time on it. And I remember I had the guy mentoring me. Remember I think I told you guys that story. He called me and said, hey, after I took the class, the commercial class, the instructor called me and said, if you call me, if you come to my office, help me build the commercial division, I will mentor you and take you under my wing. I think I shared that story with pretty much everybody. And so I had this gentleman helping me, step by step. And so it was great because I could go to him every day. And so this is not an overnight sensation that you're going to have. So don't stress over it too much because, and then when I got appointments, it's one thing to go through this theory. Then you go to the seller and they actually give you the numbers and you're trying to go through it. It's really complicated. So you're probably going to need some help on this analysis down the road when you get there. And I'll be there if you need that, okay? And if you get it, that's great. If you can do it, that's awesome. But my main goal is to help you understand the concept, what it is you're trying to do, and then get you in front of people who will give you the green light to go do it. That's my ultimate goal of the class. Okay, so let's look at a net sheet. So this is a good point to just say for just a minute here. All this information, so what happens is we do a two-step process. Step one is seller calls, we hit them with those questions, where are you moving to, how soon you have to be there by, how much do you owe, how much you think to sell your property for. Then we determine that that's a good appointment to go on. We go on this appointment and we bring comps and we take a listing and we leave. That's a one step. Two-step is commercial. Or I've done two steps with a really big listing or one I really want, it's right in the center of my farm or something like that. And the reason I do a two-step is because I want to build a lot more rapport with the seller. So I'll just go over and do a two-step where we're walking around the house, we're videoing the house, we're taking lots of pictures and writing a bunch of notes and really just making it look like it's bigger than it really is. And the reason is because you're just spending more time with the seller. That's all that it's about. In commercial, you kind of have to do a two-step because you need to get all of this data from them in order to leave and analyze the property. So you would use that same script. Are you doing an exchange? And how soon you have to have the property sold by? How much do you owe? How much are you thinking about selling the property for? And then you would go meet them. And when you're there, you would get this information from them. So how do we do that? We build lots of rapport with them first. Remember Ford, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. We build all this rapport with them. And then we're waiting for this window to open. Now some people, and this is why I like to touch on the personality styles. The eye personality is going to want to talk about Ford a lot and stay in the rapport area for a long time. You want to stay in that area that you're letting them dictate that to you. So if they want to talk about family, talk about family. If they want to talk about stuff, talk about stuff. If they, on the other hand, are a D personality, they're probably going to skip right over that pretty quickly and want to get down to business. So go with it. Go with whatever style you're in front of and do that. Ideally, though, you build rapport and I just thought of a story. You want to tell you those story real quick? I do this all the time. Is this okay? Or do you like it? I know it drives some people nuts. So it drives, see, the personality styles are important because when I do this, I know it drives some of the folks in the room nuts when I do this. But it's who I am, so I'm just going to do my thing. And so I remember I got this call years ago, and I was at my daughter's soccer game or practice, one or the other. And I came home, and it was like, 6 o'clock or something like that. And this person had called me once, and I have a 3-call rule and takeaway. So what that means is I call once, I call a second time, I call a third time, and on the third time I say, you know what, I don't want to bug you anymore. I've called you a couple times, and I thought you were interested in doing something, but I don't want to keep calling you if you're not. This will be the last time I call you. It's a takeaway if I don't hear back from you. And that's my rule, 3, and then I take away. And so this was number 3, and I was going to call and do this takeaway, and it was 6 o'clock, and I just got back from soccer. I really didn't want to do it. I wanted to just hang with my daughter and stuff. And so I was like, I just called them. Because I'm anxious, it's 3, I know some units, and so it was right up here in this area, and so I was wanting this property. And so I said, well, let me go make this call real quick. Let me just knock it out real quick, right? My D personality. Let me just do it real quick. Okay, so I walk in my office, and I pick up the phone like this, and I'm standing up, okay? Not even sitting down. I was going to bust this one out real quick. And so I call her, and she answers. I'm like, oh, that's great. And so I'm not getting anywhere with this gal. I mean, this is like cold as ice. It's like, I'm wondering, did I have the right number here? Because I'm not getting anywhere. And so all of a sudden, she's talking about all this other stuff, fluff this, fluff that, and I'm like, why did and so I'm realizing, well, okay, wait a minute here. I'm not going to just do anything fast with this person because it's not her style. So sit down. So I literally sat down, put my feet on my desk. All right, just relax. Just here we go. Blah, 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 yeah, right? And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, she goes, oh, Michael, you're that guy. And she starts quoting my website. And she starts telling me, you're this, boom, you got a daughter, you scuba dive. And I'm like, wow. And I'm like, how'd that happen? And so all of a sudden she remembered me, and then we went right into business mode, and I got the appointment, sold the transaction. So there's a couple of points there. One is follow up. We see this all the time where leads come in. I see this all the time. Leads come in, and we don't get right on it. We, for whatever reason, feel like we don't need to get on this call or this email or whatever it is, and that it can wait. No, it can't wait. Get on it, and get on it again, and get on it again, and stay on it until you either take it away or you convert it. The other one is personality styles. This person was not going to be D'd at all. And if I had kept doing that, what would have happened to that transaction? I lost it. So pay attention to that. That's really important that you do that. So back to the seller. Okay, is that okay that I do that every now and then? Those little sidebars? Okay. Yes, Jamie.
So, when you meet with a seller, say this is your first time meeting with them, a potential seller, is this data, these numbers, is this something that they would readily have with you for meeting, or do you tell them, like, please bring blah, blah, blah? How do you go about doing that, like, setting up for the appointment?
Okay, so, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, let's use the mic because it's being recorded, so that would be helpful.
Say again.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so when you're going to your first meeting with the seller, do they readily have, or do they have these numbers readily available, or do you prep them with verbiage with your phone call before saying, please have these documents available?
Okay, so sometimes you can prep them, sometimes you can ask them that they have information available for you before you get there. It kind of depends on what's going on. Sometimes you're just so excited or you're running out the door. And you'll do the pre-qualification questions, and you got the appointment. You don't want to spook them, and so you're just going to go there and meet them. So remember, part of our process here is, especially with this grid that we're talking about, the grid that we're going to get into in detail is you just go meet them. You don't mess around because we're targeting these people, and we're setting up this database within the grid that are specifically our cut criteria that we looked for and put in there, and we know who these guys are to a certain degree. So these people, if they say, come meet me for a cup of coffee, you stop and you go meet them for a cup of coffee. Why? Because they have multiple properties, they're wealthy individuals. You want to just get in their circle, no matter what. That's the grid. So if that were a grid call, I would just run. I wouldn't walk, I would run. Because I know who they are and I know what I put together with the grid. Now, if it's another type of call, you might want to do a little more pre-qualifications. You might want to say, hey, can you have these things in place? Now, ideally, when you get there, we talked a little bit about this before. If they come out with this big box, neatly organized, there you go. Right? There's all my expenses. What else do you need? And here's my copy of my rental agreements. And you said mortgage statements? You need a copy of that so you know what my principal and interest paid? Here you go. That's in there too. Yeah, you love it, right? He's liking this. This is great. So what's that telling you? Yeah, they're really motivated. They like you. They're ready to move forward. On the other hand, how often does that happen? Never happens. So we've talked about what really happens most of the time, and they're just kind of yelling at their wife or somebody, you know, what those rents are, and they're saying, well, just use this number, you know, just round it off. And so when you round it off, what you get is you get, you know, rounded values. And so part of that process is helping them understand the importance of giving you accurate information. And part of what you do is you explain to them what you're doing. So if it's your grid, I'm going to give you scripts when we get to that grid portion on exactly what you say. If it's not your grid, then what you would do is you would say, listen, you know, I really want to, I want to get you an accurate value, and in order to do that, I have to have some accurate numbers. So let me get some accurate numbers. Can I get to your management company, or do you have a copy of your rent roll that I might be able to get from you? And you can get that information, or use your tax. If they'll give you that at that point, that would be fine. So we'll talk more about that procedure, you know, as we move forward. I just wanted to kind of touch on it for a minute.
Question.
Yes.
You have an intake sheet, a blank sheet with all the
Yes.
information you need to just fill
Yes,
in?
he's asked if we have an intake sheet. We call it a checklist. So I have a checklist when you go to the property that you check off these items. Yes.
In the software that we get, can we be able to process all this information from the seller? In the software that we're getting,
Yes. What about it?
can we be able to process all this information?
Process all this. Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
analyzing the seller's site.
Yes. Yeah. You can use the software to analyze the property, like we're showing you. Yes. But again, I want to make sure you understand, you know, what it is we're talking about.
So this
Okay, so let me just keep going. Let me keep going. I'm sorry. It's just today's such a busy day. I want to make sure that we don't start getting behind with everybody, all the things that are going on. Okay, so
Important question. The software that he's talking about, is that software part of the software that you're giving out to us?
let me deal with that later. Let me get back to that because I'll show you software throughout the couple while we're here, and we'll deal with software, you know, when we get there. Just let me get to the software part, and I'll show you, and then you can ask questions about it. Okay, so let's go to this next sheet. So on page what page is that? 76 is a net sheet. So all I'm doing here with this net sheet is just, it's different. It's just a different net sheet. So when you sell a property, you take the sales price minus whatever is the closing costs are, minus however much the seller owes, and what's left over is the equity, right? Okay, everybody understands that. Remember what I said that I do, that, what's the number one thing that I said you've got to do in order to have success in the commercial business? Time block. Let me ask that question again. What's the number one thing you need to do? Time block. Okay, the number two thing that I did that caused my success was what? Does anybody remember?
Follow up.
Separated myself from everybody else. Separate myself from everybody else. That's something I've always been able to do. Okay, what are all these? It drives my wife nuts. What are these guys doing? What's everyone doing over here? That's great. I'm going to go do it this way. Okay, so in this scenario, so separating yourself from everybody else, so that you don't look like everybody else. So this net sheet is just a net sheet that's different than everybody else. That's all this is. It's a net sheet. So what we're doing here is I'm showing the new loan balance of $750,000. Now, where does that loan balance come from? It's coming from the buyer's first deed of trust on page. Are my pages on page? On that.
74.
On page 74. So what we're doing is we're grabbing these numbers from page 74, and we're plugging some of them in, okay? So I'm getting the mortgage payment from the, see what I mean, from the buyer's new loan. Okay. Now, the existing loan balance, where's that coming from? The sellers, yeah, the seller's mortgage coupon. Okay, so when I take that, bless you, and I subtract 750 from 358, subtract 750,000, it gives us net loan funds generated of 391,970. When I add the down payment, the cash down payment in, it gets 641,970. Where do I get the down payment? The buyer. Okay? So then what I do is I'll break down the expensive sale, the closing costs. And my experience has been that most of these investors at this level aren't really concerned with the full net sheet being presented to them because they understand the closing costs. So they just want to know generally what are we looking at. So what I'm doing here is I'm showing them that the title policy and the escrow fee is going to be roughly 2.5% of the sale. Okay, and of the sale, of that 2.5%, roughly 60% is going towards title, and 40% is going towards escrow. So let me show you something here for just a minute. So in this scenario, they're selling it for $1 million. Okay, so a super important thing for all of you is how much is the commission? 6%. How much is the commission? 6%. Okay, so the commission is 6%. It's not 5. It's not 4. It's 6%. And that's what you see there, $60,000. Okay, 6% of $1 million. So if you take a $1 million sale and the cost to sell for a seller and took 2.5%, you're going to be pretty close, give or take. So what I did is I just took 2.5% total cost of sale, and of the 2.5%, 60% is going towards escrow, 60% is going towards title, and 40% is going towards escrow. Okay, that's all we're doing there. And then, so when you add those up, the total expense of those sales is $85,000. So then what we do is we take $641,000, we subtract the total expense of sale, and it gives us $556,000 of net equity to the seller. Okay? Questions on that? Okay, hold on. Okay.
Escrow company would provide
Is it
the seller?
Yeah, but well, remember, you've got an appointment with the seller, and so we're going to meet the seller, so we're really not there yet. You could do that. I've done that. I've had escrow do it once a lot. But this is something you're doing, you're presenting today.
Yeah, and I don't understand why you would apply the balance, cash down payment.
Yeah,
and
okay, so let me just cut you off real quick because I understand that it always comes up. People always ask me, well, Michael, why are you doing it this way? Why are you doing it, why don't you, and it's okay, that's a good question because it is why, but what do I want this seller, who do I really want that question from? The seller, right? What's the seller so used to seeing? Everything else the same way over and over again. So when you show up different, the seller goes, well, that's kind of weird. I've never seen it this way. Why are you doing it this way? So it's because this is the way I do it. I market quite differently than everybody else, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. So it's just part of our whole process that we're talking about. Everything we do is different. Okay? Mr. Tom.
At this point, are you getting the sales price from your comparables or from the seller who's chosen this arbitrary amount that he wants to sell property?
Yeah, we're going in with a recommended price in terms of selling. So we're going to, I'm showing you the early steps of our proposal, our seller listing presentation proposal.
You mean
now,
recommended price that the seller gave you?
No, we're going in with the suggested list price.
A suggested?
Yes, suggested list price. Now, you don't have to do it this way, by the way. You don't have to. You can do a regular net sheet. I just wanted to show you the way that I like to do it, and then you can decide if you want to do it that way or not, okay? Okay, so now the last part of this, we're on the home stretch with this part, which is confusing, is you're just plugging in these numbers now to determine the rate of equity, rate of return on equity. So pre-tax cash flow, I'm getting this from the seller's operating statement, seller's current annual operating return, pre-tax cash flow, $36,842. See that? See where you're grabbing that from? What page is this? 75. So I'm grabbing it from page 75, and I'm just sliding it over into that column. Then I do the same thing for after-tax cash flow. I do the same thing for equity buildup. And the most important one is the total after-tax return. So I'm going to take $32,931 from page 74, and I'm going to slide it into that column. I take this number and I slide it into this column. Okay? Then what I do, or what you do, is you divide the cash flow divided by the equity, which is your magic formula for return on equity, 5.91%.
I'm sorry, repeat that again?
You divide the cash flow, take the cash flow, divide it by equity, and it's going to give you 5.91%. So in this scenario, this seller's return on equity is 5.91%. Okay? So now, if the return on equity is low, 5.91% might be okay. If it's low, 4%, 3%, what does that tell you? Time to sell. Time to sell. It tells you it's time to sell. It tells the seller it's time to sell. Okay, so that's what I'm going to show you here in the next 45 minutes, hopefully. What? So let me keep going. So let's do an exercise. Did you understand what I just? Any questions on the formulas that we just did? Now remember. So remember now on the first day of the intro of our one-day course, where again, the very beginning, the very first time I went through it, I said, here's what this is, 35%, 5%, and I went through it with you, and some of us were kind of going, why does that get, wait, I'm not quite getting that. And then I said, well, let's just keep going. And we kept going, and then over time, you started going, okay, I'm getting it now, That's what's going to happen today, hopefully. Yes? Where do we get the 4697 equity buildup, principal reduction? Where do we get that number? Page 70, is it 75? Page 74. Page 74 from the seller's mortgage statement. 75, page 75. Let me,
by raising rents and raising income, we increase cash flow. That's going to increase the return on equity, right?
By raising rents, it's going to increase the cash flow and reduce the equity. Yes.
But that's
okay. Let's keep going. Let me keep going. All right. So let's do an exercise, and the exercise is going to help you grasp the concept. That's why I want to keep moving. Okay. So you're on page 76, 78. Go to page 79. And what I just showed you, on page 78, what I just showed you was column 1. Current rents, column 1. Now what you're going to do is you're going to do column 3. And you're going to take the numbers from column 3 and start plugging them into page 79. And you're going to complete page 79, 80, and 81. Okay? What happens is you can get a call from somebody and you can figure a lot of this stuff out on your own that I have given you, that I'm going to give you today. So if you're sitting here going, this is really good, I'm getting it like this, and you want to get more advanced, I'm going to give you some numbers. Okay, so the seller paid $500,000 for this 4 years ago. So just write this down anywhere you want to, or type. Seller paid $500,000 4 years ago. It's an actual scenario. 4 years ago, $500,000. $500,000 4 years ago. What'd you say? You can write wherever you want. Yeah, but it's gonna, this is for your exercise, yes, page 79. They put down 25%, so how much is that? 125,000. Their original loan was 375,000. 375,000. A 30-year amortization at 7% interest. So the payments are $24.94.88, $24.94.88, $24.94.88, $24.94.88 times 12 is annual payments of $29,938. $29,938. Now, understand that with everything I gave you, you could, using a calculator, figure out everything I just showed you and come up with a return, including depreciation and everything. But I'll walk you through it. So, but if you're getting this like this and you want to mess around with it, you can do that, okay? So go ahead and keep filling out that chart there, or page 79. Yes, it's based on 140,400. Okay, so on page 79, what is our, now, if you want to, I'll go through this with you, some of you together. What is our scheduled gross income? Right, okay, so you would put that on that top line on page 79. And then our vacancy? 7,020. And our gross operating income? And when we set in our expenses that we're getting actually from the seller, but I'm using 35% in the scenario. What is it?
Well, 35% is different than what's actually from the seller. The sellers are 49,140.
Yeah, right. So the sellers are 49,140. 49,140 for expenses. And then our net operating income is what? 84,240. Excellent. So now then our debt service is how much? Okay, and where do we get that? From the mortgage statement. Yeah, so you got that from the mortgage statement. All right, so then that gives you your pre-tax cash flow of how much? So you can work out your pre-tax cash flow, which all you do is you subtract your net operating income, take your NOI, and subtract your debt service. And it's going to give you your pre-tax cash flow. Did anybody do that yet? Yes, 54,302. So you take 84,240 and subtract the debt service. And it gives us our cash flow, pre-tax cash flow, 54,302.
Where we get the tax payable?
Did everybody get the 54,302?
Yeah.
Okay. So now what you need to do is figure out your tax payable or receivable. So how do we do that? We come down over here at the bottom and we take our GOI.
Right, debt service there, it says 29, it says 59.
29,938.
Yeah, the debt service you have over here.
This is the seller's debt service. From the seller. We're getting the debt service from the seller. From the seller. That's why I gave you the payments for the debt service. That's why I gave you the payments, the monthly payments times 12. Oh. Okay. So did everybody get so everyone has the pre-tax cash flow. And then what you need to do is come down here and calculate the taxes that are payable or receivable, okay? Anybody have questions on this right now here? It's for the seller.
So why is this service different?
So, okay, so in that scenario I was showing you, the debt service was brought for the buyer. So I was showing you an example. So here's what happens.
The first one goes to the seller, is that correct?
We thought this was a whole different exercise.
Okay,
The first one we did earlier was for the seller, is that correct?
yes,
Okay, and this one is also for the seller?
yes.
Okay, and the reason that the loan is different is because we're talking about what?
This loan is different because it's the seller's loan. Okay, so you guys, are you working on your taxes?